This actually happened to a known human specimen who had puncture marks.
Yo, who getting the best head? God damn. Oof, through the eyes too. The worst time to ever have been a human. You know, all things considered, y'all, this is the best time to be born as a human. Because you really could have been born at 3 times. The oldest caveman time, where you were just fighting Tyrannosaurus Rexes and, I don't know, bro, mammoths. Yeah, they fought mammoths back then. Could have been born in the 1500s, where, I don't know, you look like me, bro. You were definitely cooked. Or you could have been born in, I don't know, the 1800s. Let's go ahead and see this.
We humans, members of the genus Homo, have come remarkably far in the
Genus Homo? Damn, so we're all Homo?
2.8 million years of our existence. And a lot of progress has especially been made within the last 200. And today we enjoy unprecedented levels of technology that has helped the worldwide lifespan reach roughly 73 years at birth. However,
now y'all gotta think of certain bro. The first game was in 1964. When was Pong made? 1972? Bro, there's people alive now that were in their 30s and when the first game got made. Do y'all see what we have now? That's actually like scary to think about how far we've came. Now you could have fully realistic virtual realities and virtual reality, goddamn e-sec, whatever freaky shit you want to do is literally possible now.
The journey to get here has not been an easy one, and we've had to endure many hardships, sometimes caused by our own doing. And this is reflected by the shockingly low lifespans seen across time.
We get war.
For example, in 18th century France, it was between 27 and 30 years old. In classical Greece, 25, the Bronze Age, 26, and during the Neolithic period, it got as low as 20. Yet this being said, Homo sapiens, or modern humans, have had it relatively easy compared to other human species. This is something you should be eternally grateful for, as life is an—
Okay, be real with me. Have to hunt down for your food, live in hunts in a village or whatnot, or live in society now and pay taxes, work a 9 to 5 you probably hate. Cavemen low-key had a right idea, to be honest. Because, like, realistically, bro, if you have a village of people, first off, you were good. A bunch of the men were hunting together. It wasn't like you were hunting alone. If you were hunting alone, yeah, GG's.
Early human was sometimes downright bull. And it's not too uncommon for paleontologists to unearth an early human specimen who died under very grisly circumstances.
Damn.
Now, based on research, it seems that many Homo species suffered such lives. But one study in particular found that a certain group, the 2 million-year-old Homo habilis, had it almost comically bad, and died so often so young that the majority of individuals didn't even live long enough to see their teen years, with the average lifespan having been estimated at about just 12 years old, so more than 6 times.
12? So you were unk at like 6
times less than the current average. And what's crazy is that chances are that it was even lower, as the study looked at 26 random specimens and noted a lack of neonate and infantile individuals, heavily suggesting that the mortality rate was in reality much higher, and thus the life expectancy even lower than 12 years old. Such a fast and short life makes the Homo habilis the last human species you'd want to wake up as.
I wonder what happened to humans like hair. I don't know whatever species this is. Like they had a bunch of hair on their body. Our shit was like gone. Like it completely shedded over.
Hey guys, Tom NFG here. Did you know only half of you guys are subscribed and even less of you guys have noties on? I hate to be a burden, but you know, I really appreciate it if you hit that sub button and the little bell next to it, you know? It doesn't take long. I know you can get mixed up in the algorithm and everything. But yeah, also tune into the streams, you know? We have a lot of fun over there, I'm telling you. We have a lot of parties going on over there. Yeah, that's it, bye. Damn.
With evolution.
The worst time to have ever been a human overall. Which thus begs the question, why were their lives so utterly brutal? Well, unfortunately for them, the answer is that virtually everything was stacked against them, including their very own bodies, as Homo habilis was one of the smallest humans to have ever lived, possibly averaging under 4 feet or 1.2 meters, making them 32% shorter than ourselves.
Hey, he calling out some of y'all, I'm not gonna lie. Who's he calling out? Not me though. 4 feet?
And in the best case, weighing just 60% of what we do. Such a small body obviously made them quite vulnerable to injuries.
Did this nigga get bit on the ass? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, bro, if that was like their one attack against baboons and stuff. The Neanderthals, they just went for a large... Like, they had to hit the sensitive points. Yo, it ain't that deep, though. I'm not gonna lie. Stop screaming like that.
And to add fuel to the fire, they didn't even have any notable robustness to their skeletal structure that would have at least helped them
smash, though? I mean, yeah.
Compensate for their lack of size. And it's likely that they experienced at least one serious fall throughout their life because they were partially arboreal, meaning they spent a good chunk of their lives in trees. And given that chimps often experience at least one major fall throughout their lives, the same can reasonably be said for Homo habilis, especially since they weren't as well adapted for climbing compared to chimpanzees. Although, relative to other humans, they were more ape-like overall, a result of them having been one of the first of our kind to enter the scene, with an existence that spanned from 2.3 to 1.65 million years ago. Some of these ape-like features included longer limbs and slightly apish extremities that allow them to better grip while climbing and swing from branch to branch.
So why did we lose that? Dude, we lost all the cool features. Like, all the other animals have shit like this, and what do we have? Nothing, actually. Nothing anymore. I don't know. You gotta be lucky to be born like 7 feet.
Now, possessing the ability to climb with ease is of course very useful, especially when surrounded by predators. And in most cases, it lets animals easily avoid danger, therefore prolonging their life. However, in the case of the habilis, the benefits of this ability were largely negated, as it was paired with the worst possible diet, carnivorism. Now, you'd think that a human living on a plant would be strictly vegetarian, but the habilis actually exhibited one of the higher levels of meat eating seen in humans, reflected by their very—
Damn, even they didn't like vegetables, bro. They knew game, bro. I mean, okay, I can't say I hate vegetables, to be honest. As I got older, I started to like them more. But like, shit, nowadays, if you tell me to pick between fruits or vegetables, I'm picking fruits. Fruits is literally candies made by God, bro.
very large incisors that helped them cut through meat, and their proportionally giant mandibles that were thicker than those of any living ape or human, which allowed them to generate more torsion and stress while biting, and thus helping to rip meat off of a body. This being said, they did also eat a lot of fruit and vegetables, but their meat-rich diet ultimately forced them to leave the safety of trees routinely, a problem exacerbated by their fondness for fish, which brought them close to water, and thus the dangers within. And it wasn't just meat that was the problem, but also how they got it, as for some reason, Homo habilis decided to specialize in scavenging of all things, which is almost funny considering their small size, lack of large muscles, and limited technology that consisted of simple stone tools. In other words, they did not have much to help them secure kills. And one group of paleontologists found that at best, they would only—
The one thing they did miss on, hey, we see any of these stupid creatures, they know humans are stronger. Dude, we will literally grab a fucking shotgun, the whole race is gone.
be able to reliably defend carcasses from jackals and cheetahs. This meant basically nothing though, as Homo habilis, who lived in East and South Africa, was surrounded by not one, but multiple large carnivores that would frequently show up to contest carrion. And to make matters worse, these same predators also routinely preyed on the habilis themselves, as these early humans were, for lack of a better term, easy pickings.
No!
And so, if you were a Homo habilis, you can be sure that on the daily, you live under the—
Yeah, humans out of all animals are the most nerfed. Even cats. Cats have night vision. Dogs have an amazing sense of smell. What the f do we have, bro? What do humans have that are better than like a lot of creatures? Brain. We have brain. That's actually it. If we're talking about pure hunting abilities, that's it. Knowledge, hands. Do you see a monkey building a machine gun? You know what, you're right.
constant threat of being picked off by a very diverse range of different carnivores, that, mind you, each had their own unique terrible way to dispatch you. So I guess at least there's some variety. For now, direct evidence of interactions between predators and habilis are quite rare. But when looking at time and general vicinity, over 30 potential predators have been identified, with large cats in particular having had a profound impact on destroying their lifespans.
I'd be wondering, how did cats going from being super large like this and stuff to being like little cute kitties?
One of the most prevalent ones lurking around,
And then I guess you could say they became pussified.
would have been the Meganterion, a jaguar-sized
We bred them to
saber-toothed
be
cat
teeny
that
tiny.
lived throughout Africa for the entire span of the habilis' existence. And despite being jaguar-shaped, it was more heavily built, and alarmingly had lower limbs that were actually
That
lion-sized.
looks stupid.
These limbs possessed giant paws at the ends of them where razor-sharp
Bro, I'd be forgetting some animals have existed since like these time periods when there was like all these different creatures and stuff.
sat, just waiting to
Fish-
dig
I
into
mean,
the
fish have
flesh
always
of
been
any
cooked.
unsuspecting Homo habilis.
Fish have always been cooked.
Once pinned, the habilis would then get to experience an array of sharp and serrated teeth, including 2 enlarged canines that would sink into their throat, severing major arteries and nerves, and fortunately
Claws
leading
used to
to
be massive.
unconsciousness within seconds. However, unfortunately, there's also the chance that an unlucky victim would have had to experience the more rare, but much more terrifying killing method of having its entire head virtually covered by the attacking saber-toothed cat. And miraculously, this actually happened to a known human specimen, who had puncture marks
Yo, who getting the best head? God damn. Oof, through the eyes too? Yeah, I'd rather just like snap my neck off in an instant.
to its occipital bone. In other words, the back of its head. But what's crazy is that the angle of the bite confirmed that the attack did not come from the back, but rather the front, which basically means the Meganterion put the entire human's head in its mouth. And the idea is that on top of causing skull and brain damage, such an attack could kill by completely smothering the victim's nose and mouth with a saber-toothed jaw, leading to suffocation.
Why can't these tigers just be nice and just be like, hey, like, hungry, I'm sorry, you gotta go? I would be like, okay.
In case of more bad news for our distant relatives, the Megantereon had a very healthy appetite for Homo habilis. So much so, in fact, that it literally altered their carbon isotopic levels, which directly shows us that it was even more of a human killer than other animals that are associated with hunting
Bro, they knew humans was weak because we was weak, gang.
Of humans, such as the Dinofelis, which I should also mention coexisted with Homo habilis and presumably hunted it as well. And to add fuel to the fire, there was also Homo therium and Machaerodus lurking around too, which is very unfortunate, as the latter happened to
if you seen this, man, you just had to look up, pray, and then know it was GG's.
To be one of the largest felids to have ever existed, with some species reaching 405 kilograms or 893 pounds.
Oh my god!
Comparable to both the Smilodon and male polar bears. At this size, it's not hard to imagine that even a well-placed paw
It's crazy how polar bears have, like, existed. That's, like, a prehistoric animal, too, and it's just, like, you know, we never see polar bears because nobody's in Antarctica ever. But it's, like, that's, like, pure example of prehistoric animal.
Type could take out an individual, especially since many victims seem to be targeted while young. And avoiding death by Machaerodus would have been surprisingly difficult, because despite its great size, the Machaerodus was a better jumper than many of the smaller, more agile cats, as its legs were too short to pursue long chases, which indicates that it relied on powerful jumps in order to catch prey. Which is all to say that escape by climbing a tree was pretty much out of the question. Meanwhile, while smaller, the Homo therium still stuck out as a notoriously bad animal for a habilis.
This one looks cold. I would want this as a pet. Obviously, I can't have it because it'll kill me, but it looks cold.
To get caught by, as its canines and incisors were shortened but broader than what's seen in other saber-toothed cats, transforming them into powerful puncturing weapons that also benefited from crenulations. In other words, irregular serrations that were wavy, creating a one-of-a-kind bite that both sliced and punctured simultaneously. And now, while these cats were definitely a menace to habilis society, they were not the only group notorious for shortening their lives, as another family of predators that loved to snack on our ancestors were hyenas. Like the cats, there were also multiple different hyenas that went after hominins. But there were two that really
hyenas, I feel like they're mad because, like, they're rejected dogs. They're so fucking ugly, bro.
Look out. Those being the Chasmoporthides and Pachycrocuta. Now, in typical unlucky habilis fashion, the Pachycrocuta happened to be one of the largest hyenas of all time.
Holy shit.
With specimens not only averaging the size of a lioness, but also possessing a bone-crushing bite that is likely one of the strongest pound-for-pound bites of any terrestrial mammal.
They're
this
cute,
unusually powerful bite was also problematic not just because it would absolutely destroy you, but also because the ability to crack bones meant easy access to bone marrow, and thus it's likely that Pachycrocuta showed up to a lot of carcasses. Not a great thing for our scavenging ancestor. And then when you add in the fact that Pachycrocuta likely hunted in packs, you suddenly have a whole serving and a half.
Now, you know the crazy thing, bro? If y'all ever seen the way hyenas attacks and lions, they'll literally rip the gut of, like, these animals and let all their organs fall out. It's so disgusting, bro. I remember seeing one video. I think it was like a lion, I don't know, ripped, like, the zebra's guts. You can see all the organs falling out, bro, while, like, the zebra was running. It was so disgusting.
Of death. And if caught, you'd also have to worry about the fact that in many situations, hyenas will literally eat their prey alive, which is something that I at least personally would want to avoid. And this problem would have actually been worse with the Chasmoporthides.
Is that a squirrel?
A smaller, yet in some ways scarier, kind of hyena. This
looks like what's the name? Capybara.
Looks like a capybara. Touted as being dog-like, meaning they are more gracile and nimble, likely prowling around in large packs. This more fragile size might sound like good news, but it really isn't. As small, but giant packs of dog-like hyenas eating you is definitely vastly more painful than getting one and done by a giant one. But the real issue wasn't this aspect of the Chasmoporthides, but rather its limb construction, which reflected adaptations designed for extreme speed, bearing a strong resemblance to the legs seen in cheetahs, and thus leading to it being nicknamed the running or hunting hyena. The major problem with this is that Homo habilis, on the other hand, was not a very good runner, and at best could achieve a certain
Bro, we got hold on everything, like even legs. Like, we couldn't have got a little bit stronger legs genetically. Like, everybody can have some strong legs.
Degree of endurance running. And to add to their misery, these hyenas were also hypercarnivores, meaning that over 70% of their calories came from meat alone, a diet they enacted through their razor-sharp teeth that strangely had edges shaped like those of a big cat. But as bad as these guys sound, they were nothing compared to what lurked in the waters of the Homo habilis' environment. Giant crocs. In other words, a nightmare for our ancestors, considering that, as mentioned,
holy shit. And I thought Florida was bad. I wonder what they were thinking when they saw this thing. There is nothing you could do, bro, if this thing starts coming towards you.
They had a fondness for fishing.
I deal with this
not
every
with a fishing
day.
rod or spear, but rather with their hands, which almost makes it seem like they wanted to be hunted down by crocodiles. And let's just say, these crocs were more than happy to oblige. The most notable kinds of
crocodiles, okay, low-key got an L design to their body type. You could just choke out the snout and nose and they can't do anything. The only thing is, yeah, if they whip their body and try to hit you with their tail or something, but like that's about it.
Then happen to have belonged to the same genus of crocodile alive today.
They have the best, that's why they haven't had to adapt in thousands of years.
You would not have to worry about confusing them for any living species, as these ones were utterly giant, with the two largest having been the Crocodylus thorbjarnarssoni and the Anthropophagus. Now, you may be wondering about the anthrop part of the latter's name, and the reason for
they
it
aren't that
is
tough.
because
the advantage these crocodiles do have is night vision. They're gonna come for you at night. In the daytime, bro, they just be sitting in the water and shit and with their nose up.
Croc love to eat people, leading to a name which literally means human eater. And of course, as such, we have direct evidence for its humanly diet. As in one formation alone, 2 juvenile habilises were found with severe damage to their legs and feet that matched the teeth of this crocodile, and thus showcasing how they would seemingly target the legs while springing ambushes, and then proceed to kill them.
Ah, bro, they all dipped on him. No, bro, why they leave my mans, bro? If it was my homies, they would have tried to kick it.
By either drowning them or using a death roll to literally rip their limbs off, which apparently happened in both of these 2 cases. In other words, not a pleasant way to go out. And fighting back was not an option, as Anthropophagus was covered in very sturdy armor, and was even larger than your normal saltwater crocodile, with adults reaching a length of 7.5 meters or 25 feet, and weighing around 1.5 tons.
That's so ridiculous, bro. How were people alive back then?
To just put that into perspective, the longest recorded extant croc, an individual named Lolong, only reached 20 feet or 6 meters, and weighed just 1.1 tons. So as you can imagine, at this gargantuan size, Anthropophagus surely had one killer bite.
I'm so glad I'm born in the era of mukbangs and bed rotting.
As one pretty devilish creature, which is why it's perfectly fitting that it also possessed 2 prominent ridges or horns above its eyes that made it not just lethal, but also visually terrifying. However, while it seems to have definitely been
I'm sorry, this shit just looks stupid. Dude, this horn looks dumb as hell.
The most problematic croc for humans, it wasn't actually the largest, as that title went to the thorbjarnarssoni, a slightly older crocodile that also coexisted with the habilis, and preyed on them during the earlier days of our ancestors' existence. Thankfully, it wasn't that much bigger than its younger counterpart, having been about 8 meters or 26.2 feet long. But it's not that much of an upside, as that of course still makes it the largest crocodile species ever discovered, which in turn also makes it one of the biggest true crocodiles to have ever lived.
Let me get into dinosaurs.
And because its remains are so few and far between, there's a very good chance that it got even bigger. What was really unique about this predator though, was its skull, as in addition to being gargantuan, it was also much broader than what's seen in other living crocodiles, perhaps being an adaptation to help better grip and crush armored prey, such as large turtles. Despite this,
being able to bite down on a turtle shell and kill it is like crazy strength.
It was still likely an opportunistic feeder who no doubt fed on the occasional poor sod. In fact, the holotype for Homo habilis, a specimen dubbed OH7,
you know what they need? A dentist.
May have been a victim itself, as its foot and leg bones bore large, broad, and deep puncture wounds that matched the teeth of a giant croc. And like the other fellows I mentioned earlier, it seems that OH7 lost its limb in this violent attack, and also lost its life. But what's crazy is that things for this specimen were even more unfair than just this, as a certain group of researchers believe that it wasn't just attacked by a croc, but a mammalian carnivore as well. Because while analyzing the upper body, paleontologists noticed that on its parietal bone, the holotype had shallow groove marks that did not match any bite seen in crocodiles.
Yeah, now I feel bad.
But rather the damage bore an
Loki had to go
uncanny
through with it.
resemblance to the bite of large cats, and thus leading to the idea that a leopard-sized mammal had taken a chunk out of OH7's head. Ouch, to say the least. Although, it's not known for certain if this attack had been carried out after the specimen had already died, or if this had been an earlier
Why does it have a good head of hair? It's kind of like scaring me.
attack that had managed to survive. While this question remains, it's clear that these guys had many predators to watch out for. And of course, prehistoric cats, hyenas, and giant crocs were just the tip of the iceberg.
You
As
got
you also
waves?
had many predators around that are still alive today, including various Panthera, Canids,
I'm sorry, bro. These panthers look so cool, bro. I would want one of these as a pet so badly. I know I couldn't, but like it just looks so cool.
birds of prey, and snakes. Snakes especially were likely another major component in explaining how
Nah, bro. I seen the images of how big these snakes were. And there's big ass snakes still alive now. They're not even close to how big they used to be.
Habilis' short lifespan. Because despite no direct evidence of attacks being known of, we do know that in general, snakes and hominids have a dicey relationship at best. And to this day, snakes cause tens of thousands of deaths within Africa alone, with venomous snakes being the worst perpetrators.
Crazy.
While in uncontacted tribes, attacks by constricting snakes remain the highest source of mortality for specific groups. And
See how big that is, bro? And that's in our day and time. That's right now. Imagine back then.
scientists believe that snakes were so problematic for early man that they essentially created an evolutionary arms race between the two, with enhanced visual detection possibly being an adaptation designed to better
saw a
help
snake
us
that was a
detect
foot
camouflaged
thick.
snakes. Not to mention that primates in general may be literally hardwired to fear snakes, at least according to a few studies. So in other words, it's pretty much guaranteed that Homo habilis were also victims of serpents. Now, the amount of predators that the habilis' diet forced them to confront was no doubt a travesty for them. Yet, it wasn't just predators that ascending the trees brought them into contact with, as many territorial herbivores and omnivores were also found in great numbers, and included a variety of prehistoric rhinos, hippos, giant warthogs, elephantidae, giraffes, and
I
bovids.
feel like elephants were like the easiest to handle. As long as you had a group, a village of people, y'all shot arrows, that shit was dead.
Needless to say, these animals did not kill humans as often as predators, but deaths still happened. And despite being lesser in numbers and diversity, herbivores and omnivores in present-day Africa cause a few thousand deaths per year across the board. And if forcing them to confront vicious animals wasn't enough, then it's a good thing that their diet's drawbacks went even further than this, as it possibly also led to health problems, namely to the teeth. As of the 26 individuals studied, only about 40% had decent teeth, while the rest had severe wear and tear to their enamels.
Don't trust hippos.
And chipped and cracked teeth. And while this may not sound all that gloomy, it really is when you consider that the oldest specimen was only 25 years old. And
Damn.
there were even multiple examples of specimens who were under 10 that already had major dental problems. And to really exemplify this, one individual
Man, I know their breath stank, bro. I don't even know how they kissed back then, too.
who was 17 years old, was found with dentistry so poor that it was about 2 times as bad as what you would expect to see in a modern elderly human who also had bad dental hygiene. This remarkable widespread level of damage was 100% caused by the diet of Homo habilis, but it was not necessarily a result of the scavenged meat.
I mean, shit, I don't blame them for not caring about teeth. Did they even have the ability to, like, fix their teeth? They didn't even know how to brush their teeth, bro. They didn't even know you could brush them.
It could have been instead a
had to
combination
survive.
of flesh, bone, and tough plant material that caused a lot of wear and tear. Plus, given their lack of offense, the habilis likely did not get the first pick when it came to food, which would have resulted in it having a limited choice and forcing people to eat whatever was available, even if it was no good for their dental hygiene. Another factor in this lack of choice, which in itself likely also contributed to even more deaths, was their environment and climate. As during the Pleistocene, Africa experienced a period of
Quick
intense
ass eaters.
fluctuations in the climate that resulted in coldness and increased aridity that made food options very scarce, and even leading to systematic starvation. And it's believed that as the climate worsened,
They
populations
definitely ate each other.
had to rely more and more on scavenging meat to supplement their caloric intake, which in turn led to again more deaths, as it brought them into contact with more predators, who also would have been more violent, as they too
I
felt the
would too.
strains of a dying ecosystem. And interestingly, but perhaps not that surprising, the competition that was created from these climatic changes may have also led the habilis to experience more fatalities at the hands of an animal it was very close to itself.
What were we
And I
close
don't
to?
actually
Oh.
mean other habilises, although this was definitely a possibility, but rather other humans, as habilis remains have been found in the same area of not just one, but 3 other Homo species, as well
Damn.
as another hominin, with these specifically being Homo ergaster, erectus, and rudolfensis, and the Paranthropus boisei.
Holy. Yo, this one is evil. God damn, relax, bruh. Now, I know this one was the leader of the whole clan. What's going on?
Respectively. We are aware that interactions with these close relatives at least sometimes ended violently, as there is at least one known Paranthropus specimen who was definitely killed by a habilis, possibly even becoming food for it. Now in this particular instance, the habilis managed to secure the dub. Yet with the other Homo species, it was likely at a severe disadvantage for a few reasons. Firstly, it was the smallest Homo species at the time, and the least adapted for a terrestrial life, so any confrontation on the ground would have been the home field for the others.
Oh yeah, that one is the alpha.
Secondly, the habilis unfortunately had the second smallest brain seen in any human, with an average brain size of between 500 and 687
I wonder how many habilis exist like this nowadays. There's gotta be a lot.
centimeters cubed, making it 25% smaller than the next smallest brained Homo species it coexisted with, the ergaster, while the erectus could sometimes have a brain literally double the size. This large difference likely led to an intelligence gap between the habilis, a notion partially reflected by the varying technologies that each species achieved. As for example, the erectus had access to controlled fires, picks, knives, and cleavers, which would have given them a huge edge during any fight, to say the least. And to make matters worse, despite not being a hominin, I will also mention that the ape Dinopithecus was likely a part of the fray as well. And in some ways, this creature was even more unsettling than multiple Homo species, as it was a giant primate that was closely related to baboons, and thus had giant fangs and would have been roped with large amounts of muscles.
Imagine if those giants were still around like Clash of Clans. I would have about like 10 assault rifles ready anytime one of them tried to come near me. I would not play with that.
And when considering the fact that it could have been 3 times the size of Homo
God
habilis,
damn.
we should probably add this guy to the already very long list of potential predators. Ultimately, it was a very tough and unfair world to the Homo habilis, and according to the original study, the worst part of an individual's life would have started at around age 10, when they entered a phase associated with maximum mortality. Though ironically, reaching 10 in the first place would have already made you one of the luckier ones, as based on another study, it's presumed that 40% of everyone died before reaching double digits. And if we factor in juveniles and infants, then it's believed that this number increases to 60%. This in turn would mean that the average age of death given in the study would actually be lower than 12 years, which then of course raises a whole other question on how in the world
did they just age faster then? Like, did they look like they were like 40 or something at 10?
the habilis even managed to exist
Definitely
for such a
from
long
Australia.
time. Perhaps the answer lies in their technology, that did in fact allow them to access bone marrow and tough plant material. Additionally, there is an offhand chance that a 1.7 million year old windbreak, or rough hut, was built by a group of Homo habilis, which if accurate, implies that they had a way to deal with the worsening climate of their times.
Hey man, we went from that to giant tall glass buildings with cubicles in them. Take me back to better times.
The number game also seems to have played a big part in their miraculous extended survival, as paleontologists estimate that group sizes may have reached up to 85 different members,
It's the only reason why we
and thus allowing
survived.
for more protection and a lower chance that any given individual would have been picked off by a carnivore. Though honestly,
Nah, bro, humans actually like made it through so much. Now that I think of it, we were fighting like these giant creatures. How do we make it out? How do we not become extinct? That makes no sense to me.
based on everything, that didn't seem to work
Oldest
out too
human
great for
was
them.
a tall 5-year-old.
And who knows, perhaps the extremely high mortality rate was what finally broke them. But whatever the case, one thing is clear. Being a Homo habilis sucked.
Shout out to all the Homo habilis. They went through a lot, you know, so we didn't have to go through anything. So we could sit down and chill and eat Chick-fil-A and watch a brain rot. I would want to live out there for a day. I want to try for a day just to see what's up. No technology, not even no buildings, no society. I want to see how long I can survive. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to join the Discord or watch the streams.
Subscribe to Tommy NFG.